Welcome to Pondering Passages. This is Pondering Ephesians.
Yes, it is. And
And we're live.
we are. It's good to see you, Kurt. How are you doing?
You know, I just love that startup music.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And in my headphones, it's like this deep reverberating bass. It's very nice.
Yeah, now what's interesting is I can see you during that time. And I just see you jamming out. You cannot see me, correct?
Nope. Can't hear
So
you.
I can
Can't
do
see
anything I want. And you have no idea. I just want to say something. We usually do this on Fridays, and usually it's streamed over to Pondering Psalms. But today we're doing something a little different, and I also put it on the church account. Oh, I didn't do the YouTube for the church either. I wonder if I can. I'm going to see if I can do that now.
We could always start over.
Oh, nope. It tells me I'd have to upgrade. So I'm not going to do that right now.
Upgrade.
Yeah, but anyway, we have been doing a Pondering Psalms where we take a look at the Psalms and just kind of go through it and read through it. And Kurt and I decided to jump into Ephesians and do something similar because sometimes the Bible seems intimidating for folks, and I don't think it has to be. And we don't necessarily, commentaries and study aids are important, but sometimes we get a lot of benefit from just reading what is there and pondering over it. And that's what we've been trying to do with Ephesians.
And Dave, we've done it a few weeks.
Yes.
This is 1, 2,
we're on chapter
3, 4, 5,
the
6.
end of chapter 2.
This is our 7th Pondering Ephesians.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah. And it's been helpful. I find it helpful just to kind of pause and take a look and see what's there. And I apologize for those that are watching on St. Paul's site page, because we've been doing this for several weeks. We are at the end of chapter 2, and so you've missed everything that went forward.
And it was beautiful.
Oh man, it was fantastic. Yeah.
Maybe not that nice.
Yeah, but if you're interested in that, you can go over to the Pondering Psalm, or is it called Pondering Passages now?
Pondering Passages on YouTube. Facebook has a lot of the links to all of these, but we have different channels. One is Pondering Psalms. One is Pondering Passages. We did a couple episodes on Luke when it was
when
it was time for Advent. And so we're actually in Lent right now. I mean, we're not focusing on this in that context, but that's where we are in this church season, the church calendar.
Yeah. And so are we ready to jump into the end of Ephesians?
No.
Oh, we're not.
I'm ready to jump in the end of chapter 2.
Chapter 2. Well, okay. Yeah, I failed to say chapter 2. Yeah.
You don't try and rush.
This is live, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely live.
Yeah, and if you leave comments, we put them up.
Yeah,
for good or bad, because people will see them anyway. So yeah.
Our good friend Shane usually joins us about this time, so we're hoping he joins in.
Yeah. And if not,
so we're doing 19 through 22.
Yes, just 4 verses.
Chapter 2, 4 verses.
And one of the reasons why we end there is because when you go to chapter 3, and I know you hate when I do this, but Paul says, when I think of all of this. And so it's like,
what's he thinking of?
Yeah. And here's one of the challenges when you really pay attention to the chapters and verses, because sometimes it's like, oh, I'm going to start in chapter 3. Well, when I think of all this, well, if you come to this, you really need to back up and say all of what?
Yeah. What's he talking about?
And right here, we've got the same issue. So now, wait a minute. What do you mean? So now? And look at this. We've talked through the so now. It was all of this stuff that went before.
So to tease, we just go, so if you want to learn more, go to Pondering Passages on YouTube
and check out the Ephesians, videos. Yeah. Yeah. So Paul's in the midst of talking to the folks at Ephesus, writing this letter. He's had a prayer. He's told them that once they were dead through their trespasses and sins, which everyone used to live, that's just the natural way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But now, even though you were dead, you have been made alive. And it was through Jesus, through the same power that brought
Right.
Jesus back
Yeah.
from the dead, Paul says, brings us back to the dead. And what else does that power do?
Well, it brings us all together, right?
Yes. I'm glad you said, when I said that, I'm thinking, well, gosh, we didn't talk about this. So Kurt might think, I have no idea what you're talking about.
It makes a great souffle. That kind of power, it's only that kind of power that can really make it rise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nope,
And so he's brought us together. Yeah.
We're
And
somewhere far away, somewhere near, but yet here we are.
yeah. And right up here, he says he brought this good news of peace to the Gentiles. Because again, actually, Jesus says this to the woman at the well, the salvation is from the Jews.
Yeah.
And so the Gentiles were much further away than the Samaritans. And Paul says, hey, he brought you to close, and it's peace to the ones who were near. And now all of us can come to the Father through the same Holy Spirit because of what Christ has done for us, for all of us.
But don't let this conversation ruin the last episode of Pondering Ephesians for you. Go back and take a look at that.
Yeah. I mean, we spent quite a bit of time going through this, what it all means.
It was good.
But
so now,
I think that context is important for the so now.
There
we go. We got the first highlight.
He loves his highlighter, man.
I know. I'm getting into the highlight thing.
Do you have lots of options for highlighting, or just the 4?
I believe I do, but I would have to go. See, there's some there. I'm pretty sure I have more, but I forget where I have to go in order to find the rest of them.
Just curious. Doesn't matter.
I think there's even symbols.
Anybody who's watching, this is Dave's using a program called Logos. It's free. It's online. You create an account. You can get into it. You can use free versions of Bibles. You can pay for versions or translations, as my friend Dave likes to say, different translations. So you can see the tabs there along the top. He's got the NLT, the NRSV, ESV, NIV. What's in St. Paul? There it is. So look that up. And you can use that. It's a great tool. It really is. And you can use it on your Chromebook or on your tablet. You can use it on a computer, and it is a fantastic resource.
And I would just say that you get some things for free when you create a free account, but some of the Bibles you do have to purchase, and they call them resources. So books are as resources. So anyway, full disclosure.
You can do little notes. You can look up the Greek. You can look up what different words mean or context just by right-clicking on it. You can kind of see how it's been used in other places, and what people have said. And again, we're not encouraging you of going away from the Word of God as it's written. We want you to live in that. But if you go, well, but I'd love to know what the history of the Gentiles are. Well, you might have to do some research about that. But we know from this verse. Oh, look at him! He took it.
That's the word I meant. I was trying to look up Gentiles. Look it up. Yeah. And I really don't know what some of this stuff will do.
Study, search.
So, it's still pulling up the Greek. So on the desktop, because there's a desktop version too, it would pull up. Information about the Gentiles.
Yeah. See, so I mean, you can do that. I downloaded the desktop version on my laptop. It takes a lot of space on a laptop. It's a big program.
It is. Yeah.
But if you're wanting to study the Bible, it's excellent.
So
let's go into stop stalling, Dave. Let's get into verses 19 through 22.
That's where we are. And so now, Paul kind of comes to a conclusion. You Gentiles, because this audience is mostly Gentiles.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why he is talking like this. You Gentiles are no longer strangers and foreigners. Even though maybe at one point you maybe thought you were. And again, we want to find the are no longer strangers and foreigners. I guess no longer, right?
Are no longer.
Yeah.
Stranger and foreigner, and so I love this idea of a stranger or a foreigner is somebody who's on the outside.
Right. Yeah.
You're
Outside looking in.
Yeah, outside looking in. You're not there anymore, right? You are citizens. You
Yeah.
are, you are on the inside. You're part of the team. You're members. I love that of
Yeah.
God's family.
Yeah.
Together,
You're citizens, you're members.
you're together.
Together, we are his house.
This is it's an interesting, what would it be called, a metaphor? It's not
What's
a
a
simile.
metaphor? I don't know what's a meta with you. I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of he takes this imagery of a house and he talks about how together we are, and it's built on this foundation, and the cornerstone is Jesus, and we're carefully joined. Like you think of like a stone wall or a stone, stones that are placed together, carefully knit together, so that they're strong, and not just a house, but now you're becoming a holy temple, made part of this dwelling where God lives in his spirit. I was thinking about this, the Temple Mount, and I don't know a lot about that, but I know that there were different courts within the temple for the Jews, and one of the courts was just for Gentiles. You could come,
right. Yeah,
you could hang out, you just couldn't go inside.
Exactly.
Right, you had to stay on the outside.
And Kurt, have you ever been on the outside or felt like you were on the outside looking in?
Yeah, I mean, I was one of those kids that got picked on in elementary.
I could see that. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry.
Thank you, friend. Thank you so much. The last. By the way, this is the last Pondering Ephesians we're ever going to do together. I'm going to break off and do Pondering Galatians.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, yeah, on the outside, and I think you and I kind of have experienced that even as adults.
No, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, I can remember a time when you and I were not generously received by a group of people
who said they were our friends. But anyway,
I have a picture. I have a picture I'd like to share.
Oh no!
This is a picture of my friend.
I'm going to blow you up.
This is a picture of my friend Dave when we were
so much to love.
Look at that! Look at that! Look at that beautiful face. He and I were just starting out ministry together as deacons, and he and I were doing this retreat, and it's really solidified our friendship. I think I loved that time. But anyway,
but I think everyone may have had that experience, or maybe there's a promotion that really you should have gotten, but for some other reason someone else got it, and maybe. I mean, I've talked to folks that basically said, I don't know what it is. It's like I cannot get anywhere in the organization I belong to. And I don't understand if it's me, or I don't understand if there's like this, and the phrase that's usually used is the good old boy network. And I don't know if that's still the case or not. But anyway, any phrases like that, it's an indication that I feel like I'm on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, with salvation in Paul's day, you really were on the outside looking in if you were not a Jew.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you were part of the Gentiles, which is anything who's not a Jew, you just were not a part of the in crowd.
Yeah. And there wasn't any, well, you could, what's the word I'm looking for? Not transition.
You could convert.
Yeah. You can convert to Judaism, but I don't know if you were still considered fully, being born as a Jew had huge privileges as far as, salvation was concerned. And so this is huge. What Paul is saying to these Gentiles, you Gentiles are no longer strangers and foreigners. You are citizens. You are members. We are his house. He says together, he is inviting them in. Talk about hospitality.
Yeah.
To be invited to something that you shouldn't be invited to. Oh, when I was in college,
blow it up. I want to see your face on this story.
Oh yeah. Well, it's not that good of a story.
Okay.
But, yeah. But a friend of mine and I called into a radio station. We got tickets for Maynard Ferguson You remember Maynard?
I have his albums. I have a couple
Yeah.
of his albums
Yeah,
right behind
trumpet
me.
player, he was gonna be
Yeah.
in Fort Wayne, and so we go to this thing, and we had never been to, like, a purely jazz concert thing,
Mm.
and everyone was like they had wine during the intermission out in the thing, everyone was wearing, like, suits, and I had on, I think, like, an AC/DC T-shirt and jeans, and, of course, since we won the tickets, we were in the front row. I
Oh
mean,
my
like, the best
gosh.
seats, and I felt so out of place, and it's like, we should not be here at all.
He probably loved having you guys there, though. I mean, because
Yeah.
he wasn't a high-end kind of a guy,
No,
right?
he wasn't. He wasn't. But this reminds me of just being somewhere where you really shouldn't belong, and that's what Paul's saying. You shouldn't belong. You shouldn't belong, but you have been invited in.
That's a cool story.
Yeah, and together, I think what Paul perhaps realizes is that even as Jews, it's by grace, that they were chosen by grace, not because there was anything. I mean, they thought it was because, hey, we're special, but it's like, no, it was by grace. And now the Gentiles are being invited in, and together we are his house, which is an interesting phrase to use.
And I really like that he's saying you guys are outside, but now we are all together.
Yeah.
Together we are his house. I really like that, and it's got to be very intentional on his part, because he kind of leads it from you were outside, now you're citizens, you are members of God's family, and together we, all of us are this house. Built on, and that was an interesting phrase. Tell me about what your thoughts are about the foundation of the apostles and prophets.
Well, basically, it's all there. It's almost like, you know what? This is not new. God has been talking about this through the prophets, and especially the apostles. And this house that we are part of together is built on their testimony, on what they had to say. And so I thought it is an interesting thing. He says house, and I guess I could still do this in blue. But you got house, build on the foundation in the process, the cornerstone, because again, that is an important part of the house. Now, you used to do construction, right, Kurt?
No.
You're just supposed to go with me, man. You're supposed to, of course I did. And then you can tell me how important
tool belt. I've told you this. That's it. That's as far as it goes.
Well, I thought you could share a little bit about the cornerstone, how important that is.
I don't really know how important is it. I don't know anything about construction. I don't know why you need a cornerstone.
Well, it's the first stone, as I understand it, to be put down in the whole house. If the cornerstone is bad, it's kind of like when you put that first Lego down. If you got the Lego messed up, the rest of the thing just isn't going to work.
Okay, that I get. The Lego analogy makes sense. Or Lincoln Logs. Lincoln Logs were more my speed.
But you see, it's not just a house.
Yeah.
It's not just anybody's house. It's not my house. It's not your house. It's
the dwelling where God lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It is.
That's a big deal. I mean, Paul's making a huge statement.
Yeah.
In these 4 verses.
Yeah.
4, 19, 20, 21, 22, 4 verses.
Yeah. Just like when we did Pondering Psalms, you're trying to figure out, well, how many verses?
My math is terrible.
Well, it doesn't really matter in the end. But anyway.
One of the reasons why they don't want me doing construction. 10 inches.
Oh, whatever. You always measure
twice.
Once and cut twice.
That's what I usually do.
And then you get another piece of wood, because it's like, oh, I messed that one up. So, but yeah, this is a huge deal because because all through the Old Testament, God lived, there's a dwelling, there is a tabernacle. God would go there.
Which was a tent, right?
A tent, yeah. Tent. And for a while it was movable. They would move it because God's people were on the move. And then finally in Jerusalem, David's like, I want to build this temple, but that wasn't for David to do. His son Solomon built the temple, and God's presence was there But there's a portion of Ezekiel where he slowly watches God's spirit move out of the temple because of the people have turned their back. And what Paul is basically saying here is that the temple now is us together.
Moved out of a building and moved into the people.
And through him. That's why through him is
Mhm.
a different color, because that is vital, because Jesus is the dwelling. I mean, he is God incarnate, but he is inviting us all to be a part of this house, this temple that's built on the foundation, that's the cornerstone is Christ. And through Jesus, we are invited into this. And so no matter who you are or what you've done or where you find yourself, you are invited into this dwelling place where God lives by his spirit. Amazing. Simply amazing.
Yeah. What a great way to wrap up this chapter.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and the chapter's just packed. I mean,
is.
it's packed. You could spend the rest of your life just kind of digging into that and really thinking about how that applies to your own journey with God and, you know, what that looks like. But it's not over. You know, I mean, chapter 2 sets this foundation of this is who we are. We're not on the outside. We're on the inside. We're actually not just on the inside. We're a part of the very structure. Now, and what do you say the first few words of chapter 3 are? Scroll down there. What's that?
I'm on the wrong screen. When I think of all this.
Think of all of that.
Yeah.
So here's where we land next week.
Yeah. And so I guess the question that I think this passage is asking is, Paul says, when I think of this, ... what happens when you think of this? When you think of what God has done through Jesus, that those who are on the outside are now made apart through him, through Jesus, through his death, through his resurrection. That same power of the resurrection that raised Christ from the dead is raising us from the dead and bringing us together. When you think of that, where do you land?
You know, earlier he mentions that we are the masterpiece that God has made. You know, and you don't just take rubbish to build a house. You want the finest materials, and to think even more so about a temple that you're building. You want the absolute best, and so sometimes we live as if we're rubbish, when in fact we've been created and invited into a really important work, and so we can pretty much hold our heads up pretty high, not because of anything that we have done, which Paul makes very clear in the previous. It isn't anything we did, but the fact that we have been chosen for this and we have been allowed to be a part of this is should give us a lot of encouragement on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, we face terrible situations, but yet God's still there, present, ready to invite us, ready to be part of that.
And one thing I would say is, when I think of all of this, I don't see how we can live in racism or sexism or ageism, because we have brothers and sisters of Christ of all races. We have brothers and sisters of Christ of all ages, all nationalities, and we together, and we have been brought together in Jesus. And I think it behooves us, if we call ourselves by Jesus, to recognize that we're in this together.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really good point. A beautiful thing.
I think it's a great point. I think, you know, and you don't even have to say ageism, racism, sexism. I mean, political divide. I mean, you name left and right, up and down, back and forth. It doesn't matter. We all should be meeting in the middle, where God has brought us to what? Honor him. Not honor our belief system, not honor, you know, the thing we stand for, unless the thing we stand for is Christ himself.
Yeah. So would that mean that anything that divides us is actually going completely against what Paul's talking about here?
Yeah.
And I think that's where Paul was getting.
Well, I think we take our eyes off of it. We
Yeah.
take our eyes off of the thing that should unite us. Those things are always going to exist, right? You and I don't agree 100% on everything, but
You'll come around.
There's always hope.
There is,
But if our focus instead is not on those things, but instead on what it is that Christ has done for us, then man, we've got a whole new life to live that keeps us focused on the central thing, the one thing, that cornerstone. And all the rest is secondary. All the rest is minor. All the rest will disappear with time.
Amen. Amen. Well, Kurt, I've loved having this time with you. I'm glad we could do it live. I think last week we did some stuff and it's like, hey, nobody's watching. But what I failed to realize is that people could watch later because it was posted on Facebook.
Yeah.
So
we can always, and you and I might want to watch it again.
Well, what I'm saying is we said we can take this out and post. Well, the original is still on Facebook. So, and
oh my gosh, what have we done?
I know.
Oh my goodness.
I thought about, so if you have the FBI, CIA knocking at your door, you'll know they watched that episode.
I'm not really too worried about it. I hope they've got other things to worry about than
I think they do. Yeah. So
we understand you have Maynard Ferguson albums. We're collecting all those.
We're good. All right. Well, everyone have a great week and spend some time in Ephesians. Dive in.
Yeah. We'll be starting in chapter 3 next week.
We'll
talk to you then.
Yeah. All right.
God bless.
God bless.